and then I'll make you. And okay, Henry, so you're now officially the host.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Nikki.
You're welcome.
Okay, hi everyone. I have 3:01 and I'll call the meeting to order. What do I want next? Okay, how about the governor's script? All right. Good afternoon. This open meeting of the Town Area Plan Work Group is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting, I don't see any public, so it will not feature public comment for this meeting. Town Area Work Group is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how public may join. For Zoom meetings, please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to share screen of your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording, and I think that's enough of that. So that's done. Establishment of a quorum. Lee?
Here.
Allison?
I'm here, but I can't find my mouse. I'm here, sorry.
Yep, you're there. Okay, Marcia?
Here.
Mary Ann?
Here.
And I am here. So I believe that is a quorum. Okay, approval of the agenda. Any additions or what's that?
I move to approve the agenda, Mary Ann.
Okay, thanks, Mary Ann. Is there a second?
Second, Marcia.
Okay, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, we got an agenda. Approval of the draft minutes from July 19th, 2024. Is there any discussion? Take that as a no. Okay. Motion to approve.
I move to approve the agenda, the minutes of the last meeting, Mary Ann.
All right, thanks, Mary Ann. Is there a second?
I'll second. Allison King.
Allison, thank you. All right, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. That's out of the way. Okay, who's up first?
Henry, if you'll allow me, just a bit of local area plan or small area plan business. One of our colleagues in Monomoy are concerned that they're not getting a good reception from MPEDC, and they're bringing the issue to the President's Breakfast, which will be Saturday morning at 7:45 a.m. I haven't been asked to comment, but I'm warning you that you and I might be asked for our comments after their presentation. For the rest of you, the President's Breakfast is the invited participants are the presidents or her or his delegate from the 25 area associations, plus the executive committee. It'll be in the Nantucket Inn this Saturday morning. I'm more than willing to answer questions, but I think I've alerted you and done my job.
I got the notice from Charlie and Peter. They haven't said a word to me. We're being recorded, so I'll just bite my tongue.
Okay. Well, Monomoy, and I understand about the recording. Monomoy has done a lot of work on their own, but their a work group has not yet been recognized by MPEDC, and they're concerned that the town is moving forward with a consultant for the master plan before it's got input from those of us who are doing local area plans. And as you say, enough.
Okay, thank you, Woody. Land use. Mary Ann, you ready?
Could I ask a question, please? I have
Sure.
an email from Lee, but I do not have what he produced. I could not find an attachment in the email, so I have nothing to go by.
Nor
Okay.
does anyone, as I understand it, correct? Lee said you were going to put this up on the screen.
Oh,
I can do that if I will be given, if I'm given the opportunity to share screen. I was thinking that each person would put her own version up, and as we went through discussing and approving, and if needed, editing, they could take responsibility.
I've never done a screen share in my life. I have no idea where to begin.
Oh, okay.
Well, welcome to the club, Mary Ann.
Okay.
well, and I was really hoping that we would have the time to have review the reports before.
They were sent out on Friday, Marcia.
So you're saying that
I didn't get them either.
I didn't either, Lee.
Oh,
I feel like they were sent out before that because I met with Mary on Saturday.
no, they were sent out. Let me double check. It's going to take me just a second.
Yeah, I thought the same thing as Marcia, but they never came. And then today you told me I would be screen sharing, and that scared me.
yeah.
No fear, Mary Ann, we can do it.
So, Mary Ann, you were brave to come, right?
Okay. I've got a whole bunch of family coming on Saturday. And at the same time, the weather report is saying,
Debbie is going to join them.
that's right.
This is my first year going to Pops and like get rained out.
Oh.
Yeah, you might.
That may be, I don't much care for the phrase, but that may well be my bad, because I certainly had it may be that I was waiting for the final two and then forgot that I was waiting. So let me go back.
Well, if people didn't get them in advance, I guess it's best to proceed by putting them up on the screen.
Yep.
And I've never been a fan of editing by committee, except for concepts or ideas, because Lee, I hope that you are going to be the final editor writer of this document.
Well, if not I, Henry and I.
Crossing out a word here or there, or adding a word here and there, it's difficult to do by committee. So I just want to say that it's much easier to say the concept has been missed here, or we need to add this idea or delete that idea. So
Thank you. You should have your land use plan on the screen now.
That's correct.
Good. Um, I've been involved with a quality assurance kind of thing for education. And at one time we wrote a full report. Now we do a short report. But early in my ventures, one of my writings was selected for an evaluation by a professional writer who said, I've selected this document because it's unlikely that the author will be in the room, at which point I raised my hand. But I got a lesson then on active voice versus passive voice. Passive voice, it is recommended. Active voice, the work group recommends. In other words, there is a active subject to the sentence. Now that's the kind of thing that we might be, Henry and I might be looking at, is a certain consistency in that. Second person, do we say we, or do we say the work group? Just little things, but that'll take a lot of, I know, my time. And Marianne, that's the word here or the word there.
Well, I'm just going to go bullet by bullet, and I'm going to point out that the first bullet is active voice.
Yes.
So people can, and I would just say that the first bullet meant to say that we need to balance preserving the historic nature of our area at the same time that we ensure that it has ample opportunity to continue to be resilient and to grow and to be a vital part of the town of Nantucket. So I'm going to give everybody a minute to read the few sentences here and comment about that, what you think should be changed, added, deleted, that sort of thing.
So Mary Ann, is that the first bullet point that we're addressing right now?
That's correct. The one that begins, the town area plan seeks to maintain vitality in the town area.
I don't think I knew there were 1,800 properties.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I'm not sure I knew there were 1,800 properties.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember where I picked that detail up,
Right.
but
Marianne, you did have a list of properties that,
yeah, we did. I meant to look at that list and see if there was even a number at the bottom of it, but I did find someplace else that mentioned 1,800 properties.
So
I
are you
checked that detail.
referring to land or buildings?
No, land, properties, whether they're developed or not.
Marianne, word choice, I'm happy with vitrified, but I'm an old bone guy. I probably would prefer ossified.
You can have it either way, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
These are the kind of things that you, as the final editor, and Henry, I suggest, you be the details like that. Are there any other comments about this? Trying to keep a balance here between historic and modern.
I think it does that well.
I have to give a shout out here to Liz Almodovar, even though she had to leave our committee due to illness. Much of this comes from her, so I don't want to take full credit for this, for sure.
Well, I wouldn't mind having your word somewhere in there, the word balance, actually in the paragraph.
Okay, now should I be taking these notes, or you?
If you would just jot something down,
Okay.
I'm jotting as well. I
Okay.
thought I might do it on the screen, but that's going to get complicated.
Yeah, I agree. It does get complicated.
So I've written balance.
You know, we might even put that at the beginning. The town area plan seeks to maintain a balance
Yeah.
of vitality. Yeah, it could
Yeah.
appear right away at the top.
A vital balance.
Well, vital and vitality have slightly different nuances, but
What about vitality?
vital and vitality have different nuances, but it's still funny.
Yeah, I agree.
Can we move on to the second bullet, or is there are more comment on the first bullet?
From my viewpoint, Marianne, yes, we may move on. However, I will indicate that since that's the first bullet is the first paragraph, it's the one that's most likely to be read word by word to the final period. I'm pleased that we took the time.
Also, we kept it short for that reason too. I agree that people will read the first one, they may not go any further. And yeah, that's why it's very short.
Right. I mean, Marianne, if you were to want to add more detail, you know, to me, when I read that, I'm really curious to know how many vacant pieces of land are there? And I know Nathan Porter has certain um, numbers, but I'm curious with that. Just, and it seems so crucial, so vital to your section to say, well, the occasional piece of land, is that 5 pieces or is that 2 pieces of property? I know that the number that I had working with housing was 1758 residences. So it's closely related to the 1800 land. But often, again, I think of the word property. I'm not clear that it means land rather than a developed piece of property.
And Marcia, if you knew the exact number of undeveloped properties, what could be done with that information? How meaningful would that be? For what purpose?
Well, I think to me, it underscores what you're saying. It really elaborates and makes it so much more important to emphasize the balance that's needed, that if you have 1,800 properties and 1775 of them are already built on, I mean, it tells a really compelling story.
Marcia, on open space and recs, we had 21 parcels.
21, interesting. Well, and of course, I guess I don't really mean to add that detail, but it's like when you say you've got 21 pieces, then it continues on. Are those pieces that cannot be built on because they are already parkland or somehow restricted? But anyway, that's only just a comment about underscoring the need for balance and the situation that we're in, that it's built out to capacity. It's just making your argument more compelling.
Okay, I'm pretty lazy. I don't want to go counting all of these properties, to tell you the truth. That's why, I mean, we have this document from Nathan, and I have resisted looking at it because it's just, the amount of information is overwhelming. I don't want to spend hours and hours getting into the weeds for a purpose that I'm not sure I can achieve here, other than to say it's pretty built out. There's not much space to build on.
You know, and in that regard, because I've been faced with with similar situation with really there's finding the information and what to do with it. And so I'm wondering about whether there are situations where we then make a recommendation that says somebody ought to study. There ought to be an analysis of what the vacant land is.
Maybe that can be our recommendation to the NPDC.
Right.
I would have to say, as a taxpayer, that would be one of the very far down on my list of how to spend my tax dollars.
All right. I've
I
taken
guess so.
notes.
The 1800, if we look at 1758 developed properties and 21 open space, it's pretty close to 1800. So that means there are very few properties where somebody could build something new. I don't know. I don't know how other people feel, but I feel like we've pretty much stated the case.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. So if it's okay, I'm going to move on to the second bullet point.
Yep.
And this was to point out that there are properties within our area that are inconsistent. Some of them have been need to be reconsidered within the zoning requirements of the town, and that the town has already agreed to do this. So we're just pointing out what the inconsistency is here, and that we encourage the town to proceed the way they're already deciding to proceed. So that's the point of this. But I'm going to give you time to read it.
The final sentence is our recommendation, and I agree with that.
And it's active voice, Lee.
Yes, ma'am. Now, I'm not sure whether Mariner Way is our district or waterfront, but there are 4 or 5 new houses along there whose mass overwhelm the small existing Kansu cottage, the one that's right on the curve as Union. It's the curve of Union Street.
And also those properties, as I understand it, have been approved for above ground pools because the neighbors are objecting to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that, yeah, is Consus Springs in our area?
Yes.
So I guess that Mariner Way would be as well, because that comes, well, hard for us to, it's such a jiggly line
Yeah.
defining our area.
So you'll note that there are several maps in this particular version. I have had hours, or I've spent hours trying to insert a PDF map into this Word document. And I failed because the text within the map doesn't transfer. Before this is finished, totally finished, I will work with somebody in MPEDC to see if we can get the full detail of the maps into the report.
You know, I'll have to take that back. Washington Street is the dividing line. I'm looking at the map now.
Yeah.
Oh,
So those new houses would be on
Waterfront.
the waterfront area. Yeah,
they certainly are jammed in there.
yes, most definitely.
I couldn't even imagine where they're going to put these 3 swimming pools.
The roof.
The roof.
That'd be
But we
above ground.
we walked past, and I know this is taking up time, so I'll be very quick. And the builder was there, and Priscilla looked at a hole in the foundation and said, "What's that?" He said, "That allows stormwater to slosh through the foundation of this building."
Yeah, they all built up high just to, against the tide. So are
Okay.
there other comments on this?
I guess my question would be about the phrase neighborhood consistency and whether there is anything beyond the swimming pools that come to light, that jump out at us when we say, oh, these districts are not in alignment. They don't have neighborhood consistency. Is that because of swimming pools, or are there things happening from one district to the other that we definitely want to say, is important in the redesignation?
Well, this has nothing to do with swimming pools. It has to do with zoning designation. So that one property that's next to another property aren't zoned differently, even though they're in the same neighborhood. That was the point.
No, I
So-
do understand that. I just wondered if there were advantages or disadvantages, or what we're going to, where the inconsistency in the neighborhood arises the way it is now. Just is
Well,
it
you are an example of that. You have used your property as an example of inconsistency. So you're living with it.
it doesn't have an impact. It's just, is it just something that's on paper? I understand if that's what it is.
Okay. So it definitely is on paper for sure. But if when it comes to swimming pools, if a whole neighborhood is zoned consistently, then the whole neighborhood would either be allowed to have swimming pools or not allowed to have swimming pools. So you couldn't change from one property to the next property.
Wasn't there discussion about side porches versus
That
back
comes later.
porches?
That
Okay,
comes later.
okay, sorry. Trying to remember.
So this is just to get consistency in zoning designation where there is no consistency. So pretty straightforward.
Yes. Bullet 3.
Okay. This is swimming pools. Yes, swimming pools and water, whatever the other water.
Features.
Features. Yeah, water
Yes,
features.
I guess never remember that word. This is just to get consistency with swimming pools, so that we extend prohibiting new pools in those properties that have a specific zoning designation of R5 and R5L.
I think that's a significant recommendation. I will comment, not with any intent to change, but on our street, small little lots, there are a couple of lots that are twice the size of everybody else's, which means that there has been some interest in subdividing the lot and putting in new structures. That's the kind of developmental opportunity that exists in the town area, is second dwellings or subdivision for a second dwelling, which means that there may be more land than just a quick count suggests. Not a lot more, but something more.
You're absolutely right about that. Yeah. Subdividing would be the way that you could get more structures within our area.
Yeah.
Yeah, should we have a whole bullet point about that?
I don't think so.
So I think the term, you said water feature, Marianne, and then in here it says pools. Wasn't there a distinction at one point? Sorry if I'm not clear. Wasn't there a distinction at some point between like a pool and like a hot tub or some other water
Allison,
feature?
yes, you're absolutely right.
And are we talking about pools in the sort of not swimming pool like?
It has to do with the area of the feature and the amount of water in it.
Right.
And spas and hot tubs less than a certain dimension are not forbidden. Therefore, they are acceptable.
I didn't know if the term pools was just a little bit too generic to cover.
No, it's very specific.
Okay. Good.
In the use chart in chapter 139.
Perfect.
So, Lee, are you saying that this language is too strong to say that we're recommending prohibiting pools?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it's right.
Agreed.
Any other comments on that one?
I think it's fine, Marianne.
Okay. The next one is about height of buildings. And referencing the requirements in the Sconset Old Historic District that has not so far applied to the town historic district. So,
That may be a, what am I trying to say? A tailored approach to the two historic districts. The buildings in Sconset tend to be smaller, both in height and in mass, than in the town.
So are you suggesting that these are two totally different neighborhoods and should not be looked at as though they're the same?
No, I'm not, because I like the way we have recommended consistency without saying that it should be 25 feet.
Okay. And I would have to say that while Sconset has lower buildings and smaller buildings, the wave that it's been going through in recent years are bigger, taller buildings that they've been able to start by placing around the edges of Sconset and then moving toward the center.
Yes. What do I want to say? The real application of a building height restriction has been in Matticat, where they chose to create a village overlay district and designated 25 feet. I don't think that would fly for the town, and I don't think it would be wise to recommend a village overlay.
You know, it's important that the Historic District Commission itself heavily controls height.
That's the last bullet actually on land use. So yeah, definitely bring that up again at the end. Marcia, you'll see the last bullet is about supporting the HDC.
Yeah, so you might want to make the two bullets closer in location because they are so interrelated.
Oh, actually, I kind of feel like all these bullets are overseen by the HDC for sure. I don't know if I could separate any of them out completely.
Well,
Yeah,
specific,
let's get through this and then we can discuss changes.
Okay. The next bullet is, the fact that there are a limited number of commercial businesses, in our area. And, that they create a certain number of issues, noise, parking, traffic. And that these, side effects should be, should not be ignored. And that there could be some additional oversight of some of these problems. And I've specified noise here because as people start installing generators, air conditioners, other kinds of equipment, the noise in our area increases. And that we may want to have some requirements on what the decibel levels of any kind of equipment installation could have.
So I had one question. The noise that you've identified are actually equally true for commercial enterprises as they are for residences. So when I go outside, my neighbor's air conditioner kicks on, it's pretty noisy. So is there a reason why we made the distinction between having a different overlay for commercial than residential? I'm not,
No, you're absolutely right. We should
yeah.
definitely say something there about, yeah.
Marianne, I'm gonna put on my thinking cap about the use of the word decibel.
Okay.
There is a great sentiment amongst our colleagues in the Civic League about controlling noise. Some of it is changing the equipment, the requirement for battery powered or electric hedge trimmers. Some of it is reducing the hours of workability. Right now, it's in the summertime, 7 a.m. to 6 something. The challenge with decibel is how is it measured and at what distance from the noise source? And typically it's what is the level of the sound at the boundary. But that's getting into a lot of technical specificity that I don't think we should do. I may just say leave decibel, or I may say acceptable sound pressure levels, which
That
in
sounds
fact
good.
is a decibel.
Yeah, that sounds good. I actually think the worst offenders are generators, and if people are not here in the wintertime, I have a neighbor who's about a quarter mile away from me who installed a generator, and with the power went out at one point and the generator kicked in and I could hear it a quarter mile away. It was so loud. I began to think, well, this is fine for one property, but what if 6 people in my neighborhood had generators operating during the winter when they're not even there? I mean, I would go mad and their houses would continue to have electricity. So as you think about this, as an engineer, Lee, generators in particular are real offenders when it comes to noise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't mind it when it's the hospital, but I do mind it when it's a bunch of properties where no one's even living there. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one, which is the side. Oh, actually, we're not there yet. Oh, here's where we're suggesting there may be opportunities for some commercial enterprises for the town to approve some commercial enterprises in our area, because there were some historically, but they should be very selective and they should be chosen based on improving the quality of life for people who are residents of our area.
I think that's a very important recommendation. I'm certainly in favor of it. I've pointed out several times in earlier meetings, Nantucketers were walkers. They couldn't afford horses, and when cars became um, permitted in 1918, they couldn't afford those either. So they walked to their little shops. And for those of you who remember, my anecdote is that my children, now having produced grandchildren, but when they were quite small, they couldn't say the name of our local shop. And it came out Rabimbimbimbimbimbises, which is now a private home on Pleasant Street. It was Rabimbus. And that was an example of many such Ryder's package store. Flock was the bakery, was the Nantucket bakery.
Right.
And so, yes, I certainly would like to see some of that back.
That is mentioned in my section. I'm trying to find where there's we had a reference, hopefully it's still there, about the historic nature of that rule, Marianne, that people could have in their front parlor, you could actually open up your home and sell whatever it is that you made. And Lochtenfeld is always the perfect example of that, where John would make art and then sell it sort of in his front parlor, so to speak. And I didn't realize there was a zoning issue, because I thought that was historically allowed. So are those two at odds with each other? Do we need to make a zoning change to make it consistent with the historic rules?
I don't know the answer to that
It's a
question.
good question for me to answer, I think.
Oh, well, I like the idea that it's mentioned in two places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think certain businesses should be encouraged and given approval to operate in our area.
I'll make a note in my section and just double check.
Okay, and we'll have to rely on Lee and Henry to make sure of consistency in the entire document. Right, guys?
Thanks, Marianne.
If I say right, I just give myself a lot more work. But yes, it has to be. It should read as if it had been written with a single voice.
Yes, I agree.
Great.
Or two voices. There are.
In chorus. Henry, I can't sing, so you'll have to you'll have to lead the chorus.
The next bullet is just to keep our eyes on investor-owned properties. Just keep our eye on it, not to take a stand in favor of or opposed, but just to keep our eyes on it, because it does affect the quality of life in our area.
Yes, and I agree with that. I'm wondering, given the temperature with respect to short-term rentals and the fact of the special town meeting, whether we should be a little bit more specific about what an investor-owned property is.
Well, perhaps you should wait and see what happens at town meeting.
I'm hoping we'll be done by then.
Really? You
Yes.
don't think there will be last minute edits after that? Well, I think that's only a month away.
And 10 days.
But who's counting?
Okay, I'll leave that one up to you. But I think this should go farther. Now that I look at this, the order of things, this should be near the end, because this trend of adding a room, you'll have to move this up for me, Lee, if you can, to the next bullet.
Oh.
This trend that Mickey had talked about of building onto the side of your house because you can't add to the back is mentioned here. So, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And so I think the investor-owned property should be moved way down to the end.
You're close to the end as it is.
Yeah, true, but I mean, it's the least important of the bullet points here and should be,
Okay, I've made that note.
okay, thank you. So, Marcia, you wanted to say something about this trend?
Um, no, I definitely, was in agreement.
I think I mentioned it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Allison.
That's fine, but it was just because I thought there was something in here about it, and there is, so.
Okay. So there are only two more bullet points, and I don't think there will be much argument with their content. I just want to protect wetlands within our area because I care about wetlands and a lot of people don't. And so I want to see them preserved. And it's the law of the state of Massachusetts. And I don't think that we are as serious on this island as we ought to be about protecting wetlands. So I wanted that to be put in here. And then the last one is that we need to support the HDC in its mission. Whatever training they might need, we should encourage, and also enforcement, enforcement, enforcement. That's all I can say.
Yes. This is a very picky point. The purview of the Commonwealth, correct? To enforce state regulations. Do we mean? Oh, I like that because you haven't capitalized state.
I ran
Because,
into this where I have a neighbor who was destroying a wetland, and I went to the Natural Resources Department over 2 years. I made so many trips there, and at the end of 2 years, they threw up their hands and said to me, "Well, it's a Commonwealth issue. It has nothing to do with us." So you can imagine how angry I was after 2 years.
yeah,
And so, yes, it is it is the state that is in charge of wetlands, but they designate local municipalities to do the work of taking care of them, and we do
right.
not
And
do
that's
a
our
good job.
Conservation Commission.
Yeah, we don't do a good job. It's hard to keep the development attitude at bay.
Yeah. Well, the answer, not for us, but for Nantucket, is to incorporate the wetlands into various forms of protected lands, such as land bank or conservation foundation.
Well, I'm not sure how you do that if they're on somebody's personal property, because then we get into property rights, and then they want to sue the town, and it gets into all that legal nonsense.
Yes,
It is all part of the coastal resilience. I mean, I'm not saying it's part of the plan currently, but the concept of coastal resilience is dependent on wetlands. Right?
Well,
I
tell
lived in
that to the developers.
Oh, I understand. Because I lived in Louisiana, and the swamps are an important sort of way. The Delta does a very important piece of making sure
okay.
coastal resilience.
Essential for healthy development, but a lot of people just like to put their blinders on and move ahead with development without thinking about the future.
Until their basement floods because they built on a swamp.
Well, they're long gone.
True. True.
So, Marianne, this is extremely well written and I think very useful. However, I will point out that the last two bullets, we now have the second person.
Oh, no. Well, you'll have to make that change then.
I'll work on it. The work group recommends training.
Yeah.
Or heavens to Betsy, passive voice, training is recommended.
Oh.
I won't do that.
So I should say, now that we've gone through all the bullet points, anything else standing out to people that you want to comment on, that is missing or should be embellished?
It would help if you could scroll down to what we were required to do for this. It's at the top.
I certainly can.
Our assignment is at the top.
Yes, our assignment, exactly.
And it's not very well written, in my opinion. You have to read it so many times to see what are they trying to say.
Well, to borrow a term from my colleague Peter Morrison, they're looking for a demographic description of the area, distribution, location of public and private land uses,
Well,
population density. Of course,
you
the
get
fact,
lost in this standards of population density and building intensity to the capacity. I mean, it's a long sentence with all these, mucky words.
Oh,
and
but
underlying it is the premise that there is the capacity, that there is the ability to build more, and that we're looking for some guidance on where things should go. And that is true for the master plan, but it's less true for our town area plan.
well, I mean, I think it relates to what you wrote in the first bullet point, and that word could be the capacity. You know, where you're talking about balance, and you've used the word capacity. It's built out to capacity.
Yeah, I
And
like that.
that's
I wouldn't change that.
the important thing I think about our area. The only other one in that first sentence, which I just I'm wondering about, where it talks about the interrelationship of public and private land uses. What might that be in our area?
The only public land uses are institutional, hospital, town building, fire station. It turns out that our protected lands, Land Bank and Conservation Foundation, are indeed private lands. They're designated for use by the public, but they're not publicly owned.
Well, within our specific area, the hospital is not in our area. So what are the public lands in our area?
They would be like the private land, public could be the parks,
How about
Yes.
Academy Hill Apartments?
the parks.
Yes. And we've got that in recreation, as Henry's section.
How do you define the Academy Hill Apartments, Lee?
I don't know.
I believe it's town-owned and then privately managed.
Managed, yes, they've given a long-term contract to this company. I don't think that's a major issue, and
I don't either.
all right. Everybody thank Mary Ann.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
You're welcome.
Okay, it's almost 4. What do you think?
I think it would help if we had all these a time to read them all before the next meeting. It would
Okay.
probably go faster because we would have had a chance to think of our ideas. So could you send them to all of us in advance, and then each of our
Sure.
meetings, we could.
And if you could make an edit, because I have not submitted housing, so please take that out. It's not, I am one of the missing, so that is not, I did
If
not submit.
if you send me something, I will insert it.
Yes, but in order to send this out, you're not going to get that right away. I'll get it as soon as I can get that to you, but I don't want people to read this if you're going to send it out as a complete draft.
How much time are you looking at, Marcia?
Couple of days, I'm working on it, but I don't have a
So by
partner,
the next meeting.
definitely.
Okay. My household is going to be filled with children and grandchildren beginning this Saturday. All of which Marcia suggests you have a little bit of time.
Yes, well, and there's one other one also, correct? There's another one missing.
Yes. However, Reagan said that she could be late to this meeting, but that Mickey has provided her with input.
So I guess the question for Mary Ann, for all of us, is whether you can send out an intermediate draft without the two that are missing.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Well, actually,
if we
um,
know what we're gonna, if we know what we're gonna look at next time, let's just pick one we already have and just send that one for the next meeting. Or maybe two in case we get into, finish one and start another, as opposed to sending the whole package.
Well,
oh,
the whole package has been put together. It's just I'm asking to take out the housing because I haven't updated it.
if you get that to me, Marcia, I can do a quick swap. Cut and paste doesn't take a
You
lot of my
Do a
time.
big swap because I don't have it to send to you, Lee. I'm sorry.
What's that? Sorry, again, please.
Can't do a quick swap because I don't have it to send to you yet.
Oh, I
It's not
know. I know.
ready.
You said anything from a couple of days to a week.
Well, all I'm saying is that you have a full draft if you just take the housing out.
Okay. Allison,
Yes,
are
I've
you
been
up now? Are
taking,
you up next?
I am. I have been taking some notes in my draft, but I think we can move forward. So,
Again, if you give me a later edition, I can swap it out for what's here.
I think,
And of course,
I'm not sure I could cover this in 2 minutes, but,
Well, I was gonna say, let's just wait for the next meeting.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So highly likely that the next meeting will be we'll start with Allison's material on economic development. And I apologize for shifting back and forth. Back in
No,
the bad old days when I illustrated my lectures with slides, and I was doing this for a short course, in other words, professionals and so forth. One of them came to me and he said, "Could you slow down? I'm getting seasick."
Okay, well, and I've also made your life difficult by changing from Mac to an IBM, and yeah, so part of it is me. Do you want to send me, Lee, what you did? So I can sort of combine the two of them because I can see some changes already.
Sorry, I didn't do anything.
Oh, like year round is one word. There's something at the top. It talks about quotations from the town area survey that I didn't think were mine, but maybe they are.
No.
I don't know what's going on. I'm happy to be next.
Okay. On the next meeting then.
Okay. So, Marcia, you want your material out? If you get me your draft, even if I have family, I'll redistribute. Okay. Next meeting, Henry, is when?
Good question. I didn't write it down.
I think I've got Friday, August 16 on the map.
Yeah.
I think you're right. At 4 p.m.
And it's 4:01.
Okay. 4:01, motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn, Mary Ann.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Is there a second?
Second, Allison.
Allison
Thank you.
second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
I,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.